who is with me?
What's up, guys? This is Aaron, We're Programming.
Hell yeah. So Aaron is here, guys. You guys know Aaron from the Python tutorials and everything. He's great. He's really almost a Python expert and also a great teacher. At least that's what
Almost.
people say. So today, guys, we're going to be speaking about how to start coding. So starting to code is one of the most popular questions that we get asked. And really, most of the people have trouble starting to code just because coding in general is such a broad topic. It's hard to, first of all, think about what you want to do with code. Second of all, you know, where are you even going to learn how to code? What resources are you going to use? We're going to talk about all of these things. What type of techniques are better? What type of, mentors, people to learn from? If you should learn with your friends, if you should learn alone. So, yep, let's hop into it, guys. So, what's up, Aaron? Tell me a little bit about you, bro. Right now, I know
Me?
you were going to school. You were doing your
Yeah,
graduate degree.
yeah. So I
So,
was doing my graduate degree at Georgia Tech for computer science, but I got most of the way through and then ended up dropping out to work here at Clever Programmer full time instead because it was just taking too much focus away. But yeah, personally, starting coding, I just started in college, partially self-taught, but mostly from some professors in the beginning. But it's been a long 8 year journey since, so it'll be interesting touching on all that whole journey throughout this presentation. Just going back in the past, digging up all the pain that I went through, giving you guys all the shortcuts.
I see. And why did you find it like more, productive to actually, leave the undergraduate, career and start venturing on your own path? Like, why did you take that decision?
I already have my bachelor's first of all, so like I already have something under my belt. But then also I got most of the way through the graduate program, so I knew if I committed to it, I could have done it. Like I had a good grade, I was on track to graduate with a good GPA and everything, doing all the classes. But I just felt like I didn't have anything else to prove, and I didn't feel like the degree was totally necessary to achieve what I wanted to achieve. So I was like, all right, splitting half my time for the next year and a half. And like time is very precious when you're young. Like I didn't want to like stunt my growth in my speed of execution the next 1.5 years to finish off the degree. And I was like, okay, I'm done with this. Like instead of doing part-time school, part-time work, I'm just gonna go full-time work and just dropped out.
Yep, guys. And this is just an example that sometimes going the school route, the institution route, might not be the best choice for you. So everybody learns differently. It's great if you want to start like that. But now, that you guys are able to know us a little bit better. I'm Frankie, so I normally do all the videos that you guys see, maybe the last 100 videos, 50 videos or so. Also, Aaron, we're one of the main content editors of the channel. So now we're going to help you
Yeah.
guys in your careers as well. So let's jump into it.
Yeah, let's get going. I like this gift you got there.
So,
I like this one too.
yeah, man, the best way to actually start to learn to code is simply by just doing it, So we put Shia LaBeouf here. LaBeouf, I don't know how to say his last name, to be
Shia
honest.
LaBeouf. LaBeouf.
LaBeouf, yeah, because he's kind of buff. So doing it is actually the best way to get started because if you think about it too much, man, you're always going to be lingering in whether it's tutorial hell, whether it's, learning functions and things of the sort. But then, ultimately, practice makes perfect. But not only practice makes perfect, but perfect practice makes perfect. Okay? So, just do it, but really, really, really just do it. So that's why,
Yeah.
we added this little gif here. I think it's funny.
Yeah, action trumps everything. So like just as long as you're getting the lines of code out, that's better than, slaving over one little tiny thing. I mean, of course you have to if your code isn't working to make get it working, but the idea is just start and just do it a lot and don't worry so much about like being perfect.
Yeah, man, exactly. Perfection actually kills execution a lot of times. It's what actually keeps us in paralysis analysis. If you're thinking too much, you're gonna get left behind by the people that are actually executing. So, to start off, if you're starting off with coding, you actually have to have a little bit of perspective onto, how much money you're gonna make, what type of career you're gonna do, and all this sort. So we started off by talking about junior developer salaries, at least here in the U.S. So I saw in California that it was actually about $75,000 above, but California is one of the best paid, states in the country of the U.S. So here as a as a country as a whole, you earn around $66,000 per year. What do you think about that number, Aaron?
I think it's pretty good. I mean, for a junior developer, like a lot of other entry-level jobs in other industries are not even close to that amount. They're usually more like in the 40 range. So this is a pretty solid starting, like to be honest. Like anything like getting close to 70 or 70 plus is good. I know in other countries it's even more. Like I know in like Sweden, like starting salary is like 72 instead of
Whoa, I didn't know
66.
that. That's crazy.
Yeah,
That's
stuff like
that
that.
that's
I
pretty
think this is
crazy.
just yeah, this is just US, right? United States.
This is just US. Yes, normally US
Yeah.
is, one of the best paid markets in the world if you compare
Hmm.
it to places like Italy. I've talked to a lot of developers in Italy, Eastern Europe, Romania, all of these places. In Romania, they normally earn around 20 something K. In Italy, they earn around 20 something K if you're a junior developer. So even living in those type of countries and getting clients or getting a job in the US is going to drastically increase your income and then your lifestyle abilities, how you're going to lead your life day to day. So, this is just a taste of it. And like I said, you have to kind of have that in mind of, how much you're going to earn and what type of position or work you want to do with it. So this is how we start off, right? At the beginning
Hmm.
of everything, you have to have an end goal in mind. And so here, we got the developer, and these are just some examples. Some of the things that you can do is either, you become a mobile application developer. Maybe you're making apps for Android. Maybe you're making apps for iOS. So I actually started off doing Android apps, and that was my big focus. But then, Android kind of started to go down a little bit in the trend, and hybrid mobile development started going up, as in, Xamarin and also React Native and all of these new frameworks and languages to use for that. So another actual route that you can take is game development. And with game development, you're actually going to learn languages like C++ or assembly, something that's a little bit more, primitive. But here
Hmm.
in mobile development, pretty much you got Android, you got Kotlin, you got Swift, and like I said before, hybrid development, Xamarin and React Native. And then also, what would be the last example, Aaron?
Yeah, just generic desktop applications or web applications.
Correct.
So anything like if you want to work on like native or yeah web development, like building websites, using HTML, CSS, frameworks like Django and Node.js and React and stuff like that. You can go down that route as well. Most of the jobs are actually on that bottom one there. I mean, there are a lot of mobile apps, but the vast majority of jobs are usually in web development because a lot of like businesses want like their websites built or maintained. So there's a lot of jobs there. But yeah, those are the three kind of main things. Of course, you can also go to data science and stuff too. I don't think we have an icon for that, but I guess you can kind of jumble that with the bottom one if you want to go like the high end senior developer route, like 10 years down the road. But
Yep, that's true.
a little bit far to be planning for that, but just start coding. If you, even if you want to do that, just kind of start coding, and then
Just
you can do
do
some
it.
cool
Just
machine
do it.
learning AI stuff too.
Yeah, man. And
As Shia
so
LaBeouf says.
exactly. And Hari just asked this question. He says, how to start web dev. There's many different ways to start web development. I'd say, in my opinion, learn the basics of, HTML, CSS, then jump to
Start
JavaScript.
there.
Yep.
Yeah,
Once you learn
start
that
there.
vanilla JavaScript and you have the basic foundations of JavaScript, then jump into libraries such as React, or maybe just, use frameworks like jQuery, and also, freaking, what else? Node.js, Vue.js, all of these. So,
Hmm. And then
go
Python you can tag on at the end because that's good for the backend to become full stack. Like
exactly.
learn Django and like databases like Firebase and a few things. Like you can start stacking it. You can stack yourself to become a full stack developer.
Cool. And
Yeah.
the cool thing about Python is that it's so versatile, right? So you can do web development with it, do backend development with Django, like Aaron said. You can also just do more of, data science, data analytical type of project based, projects, at the end of the day. So you can really choose what to do with Python. It's such a versatile language. Now, going back to our presentation here, having the end goal in mind is super essential for you to actually move on with the process of your career and developing the skill set. So this is another part of it. As you're starting off as a developer, you got to know what you're going to do, right? So do you want to do mobile applications, web applications, or maybe just games, right? And another thing that you
Mm-hmm.
have to think of is whether, you want to become a coding teacher. Do you want to actually freelance and make projects, make your own time, you know, kind of dictate what clients you work with as a freelancer? Or, most popular in my opinion, do you want to actually work for a company here? And so,
Mm-hmm.
working for a company is, like I said, might be the most popular one. It's also most of the time the best paid, you know. So these
Mm-hmm.
are the biggest things, in my opinion. I know Aaron has a little bit of experience applying to a bunch of companies. So what can you say about that, Aaron?
So yeah, I guess Nas or Sunny or somebody else would have even more experience, but from my experience, yeah, I applied to a bunch. Like when I first got out of my undergrad, I was trying to apply to a bunch. I wasn't trying to be a teacher. Usually, you need to be doing some research to be a teacher like that too. At least like a actual teacher. If you're just
Yep.
like tutoring online, that's a little bit different. But that kind of you can jumble that into freelance.
Yeah, and it's cool,
Um,
Some people don't want to learn that deeply. They just want to kind of learn enough so that they can teach others. And they find a lot of purpose in, teaching the future generations how to code, which is completely fine. So you kind of have to think about your personality and how you want to apply these things.
mhm. Yeah, like personally, I wanted to work at a big tech company when I was younger, and then I tried applying to a few, but sometimes the interviews, like it's hard to get the interview at the beginning, and then to get through it is even harder.
Yep.
A lot of them didn't get back though because a lot of the jobs, like your resume has to be super on point, and then also sometimes the entry level jobs even want like a little bit of work experience, which is kind of like this weird paradox. But that's kind of where freelancing comes in. Sometimes we push hard on that because it helps you get that real world experience off the bat. But yeah, whatever your end goal is, just make sure you're coding and then attack it, and then you can eventually get that. I know Nas went through the whole Google interview process and then ended up freelancing instead,
That's funny.
just for
Yeah.
the freedom. Yeah,
Sunny
I
did too,
think he
kind
he
of.
turned down a job. Yeah, and Daniel, so three of us here,
Yeah,
code
man.
programmer, went through the whole Google process and turned down the jobs, and Microsoft too, and Twitter. So there's a
That's
few
interesting.
few good names.
So that goes out to tell you that, sometimes money or the prestige of working in a specific company might not be what drives you the most, especially doing, specific hard tasks like coding. It's very taxing, whether it's emotionally, just energetically, and all of this. So you really have to understand, where and what you want to work in. So freelancing or high tech companies or just teaching. Now
Hmm.
let's move a little bit forward with this. The beginning of your journey would kind of look like you're deciding what to do, what to work on,
Hmm.
mobile applications, web development, all of this. So each one of those specific tasks or projects are gonna actually they're gonna ask for different tools. So you gotta really, really learn the environment that you're coding in. Because for example, you want to create iOS development applications, right? Swift right now is growing. Everybody uses iPhones, at least in the US. It's a big market share. So it's not going anywhere. Apple is also the biggest, tech company in the world right now. And actually in 2020, or was it 2019, Apple started putting in most of its literally cash, the cash that they have in their company invested. They started investing more money into actual software than hardware. And it's the first year that Apple started doing that. So before that, they were actually investing more money into hardware, to get parts out for iPhones and all of this. But now they kind of want to switch a little bit more to software. So I think that's super important.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, did you already? Oh wait, did you talk about the other
What's
tools,
up?
or did
What's
you?
look? We got a donation, Aaron. First
Oh
donation,
dang,
man. Holy shit, that's
oh dang,
awesome.
it cut out for a
So
second. A
Conscious
donation?
Code. Yep.
Awesome.
Yep,
Who sent it
Conscious
in?
Code said, I'm a freshman in computer science. And I'm going to show it right now in 1 second. He
Oh,
says,
conscious code.
I'm a
Yeah.
freshman in computer science. I'm much confused in development, AI, competitive coding. What exactly am I supposed to do as a software developer? Please help me. So,
Mm.
this is an example of what I'm talking about right now. So, Conscious Code is saying this. What do you think about this, Aaron?
Yeah. So
Thank you
freshman
for
in
the
computer
donation.
science
That is
engineering.
awesome.
All
Thank you
right.
so much.
Thank you so much,
Oh,
Conscious Code. We
Yeah,
appreciate you,
oh,
man.
what's up, Kazi?
legend.
Yeah, appreciate that greatly. And now we're gonna answer your question. So, a freshman in computer science engineering. When I was a freshman, trust me, I was very confused too. Honestly, it took me a week and a half to learn what a while loop was, and then from there I had to explain it to all my classmates, and it was just Yo, where did the question go? It disappeared. Let me pull up the chat myself. Yeah, and it just it took a long time to get started. It was very confusing in the beginning. If you're confusing development, AI, competitive coding, I would suggest for competitive coding, just go to HackerRank because like I've done a few coding competitions myself. I ranked my team won first place in my state my last year of undergrad, and just do HackerRank problems, man. Like you need to know how to like solve problems. So like start there. You're a freshman, so just jump in, make a HackerRank account, and just have fun. Just do the problems that look fun to you, and get good there, and you'll be good at competitive coding. And that's really really good for the interviews too. Like it'll get your skills up, and then if you learn how to implement algorithms quickly, if you can do those hackering problems, those are the right kind of skills you want to get. And as for like what you're actually expected to know as a software developer, in one word or two words, it's just problem solving. So whatever goal that the client or employer has in mind, you just need to figure out a way to do it. Whether you are leveraging other people's libraries, other people's code, copying and pasting from Google and Stack Overflow, just getting to the end goal is all that people matter. That all that people care about, like the end result. So focus on that. But if you attack both, then like learn your problem solving skills. Like HackerRank again is really good for that. I would recommend that, especially at the beginning, because it's really fun. Like that's more fun than sometimes debugging stupid command line errors and dependency issues. So I would definitely recommend that conscious code. Can you hear me, Frankie? Awesome.
I was muted. I didn't actually notice that. But I was saying, look,
Right.
man, look at your personality. I know that, competitive programming can help your resume, can help your experience and all of this, but ultimately not everybody's made so that they can do competitive programming. You know, I'd say in my opinion, think about your personality. Are you somebody that's more visual? Do you want to create, web design, web development applications that you can actually see and touch and move around and be responsive? Or do you want to, go more of the data side, start, programming machines, doing machine learning, maybe a little bit of AI? I know Aaron was into AI, and I feel like that actually goes in with your personality. You're a very visual person, but you're also very analytical. So don't just do something because it's going to look good in your resume. I mean, a lot of times that's great, but you want to go the long-term game. You want to play the long-term game. So really do things that go with your skill set and the type of things that you want to execute in. So, going back to the tools that you're gonna need, like I was saying, if you're gonna do Android apps, you're gonna use Android Studio. So you gotta have to learn how to use that IDE. If you're gonna do Java or maybe some desktop applications, then you're gonna use Eclipse. So you gotta learn that environment. It's gonna hold
Hmm.
you back a lot if you want to create code and you don't even know how to learn the environment. And in my opinion, if you're gonna do something like web development and not desktop applications in general, I think you should use something as easy as Visual Studio Code. Just because text editors are way, faster, they're actually leaner. You don't have to load this huge, heavy software like NetBeans is or like Eclipse is. And there's so many things that you can jump around and play with that sometimes they're probably just going to distract you instead of helping you. So really learn the environment, learn the tools that you're going to need for, moving towards the path of learning more. So let's carry on. So one of the biggest things,
Hmm.
I already mentioned this in another presentation, is learning your learning styles. I was mentioning, if you're visual, you're going to learn from, here we go, where is it? Picture smart people, right? So you're very visual, you learn by looking. Other people learn by hearing. Other people learn by touching. Other people learn from other people better than, looking or hearing or touching. Maybe even reading. Some people learn very well like they learn programming very well by reading books. And in my experience, it's been super hard for me to learn from books. What do you think about that, Aaron?
I'm okay with books actually. Like I learned really well from them. The thing is, there's a harder barrier to entry. So like it's effective, but it's not really as fun. I much rather learn from a video tutorial or even just from the documentation or something, just because it's easier and more visual to get started. But the nice thing about books is they have to go through this crazy publishing thing. So like usually they're very like well thought out and they have like everything built in that you need to know. It like covers all the bases like really well. But I personally like videos more. Oh, I think Kaz is talking to him. Oh, in Gloucester, thanks for the donation, man. Appreciate that. As he's asking, As a beginner, how much practice do you recommend on a weekly basis? Also, what's a realistic expectation before you start working as a developer? All right, so naturally, I mean, with anything in life, in Gloucester
Hey,
is the
Yo,
amount
that is
of
epic. $5 donation. Thank you.
Inglauser says, did you read this already, Aaron? As a beginner, how much
yeah,
practice do you
yeah, I
recommend
read
in
it
a
out.
weekly
Yeah,
basis?
I'm,
Yeah.
I'm explaining it right now. I'm partially answering it. You were muted for a second. But yeah, I mean, as with everything, the amount of results you
Thank
get
you so
out is
much.
going to be pretty closely correlated to how much like time and work and effort you put in. As for a beginner on a weekly basis, I would say at least like an hour a day. I would say if you want to get good, at least an hour a day. So 7 hours a week. If you can put in 14 hours a week, 2 hours a day, or even 21 hours a week, 3 hours a day, that's ideal. And it of course it gets better as you keep going along. But I would definitely recommend at least an hour a day to get good. And then an expectation before you start working as a developer. I mean, this varies greatly depending on if you're freelancing. For freelancers, the client just wants to know you can get the job done. So if you've done projects in the past similar, then that's all they care about. You show them those and be like, hey, I can do this. This is the price that I charge, and then you show them that. As for actually getting a junior developer position, honestly, connections are much more powerful than your resume or your job because you're kind of just a resume in the stack if you don't have any connections. But having a lot of good work experience, getting internships is a good idea too. So just code for at least an hour a day. Try to get internships if you can. Grab any job opportunity you can get your hands on because it'll qualify as work experience, and then um, just do a lot of projects, and that'll help freelancing if that's what you want to do.
Beautiful, brother. That's amazing. That's coming from a person that really took programming, education for about 8 years now. So,
Yeah,
do
6 years.
do think that this guy has influence with code. He knows how to teach it. He knows how to actually do it too. So, going back to the learning styles, I feel like, it's very important to know how specifically you learn. And so that learning style is what you're going to apply to your education. So one of the most popular questions that everybody asks themselves once they start to code is actually, what language should I learn first? So, there's so many answers to this. It also has to do a lot with what I already talked about. What do you want to do? You want to do mobile applications? You want to do web development? You want to do desktop applications, AI? What do you want to do? That's going to dictate what language to learn first. What do you
Hmm.
think about, in your opinion, what language should people learn first?
I mean, it's exactly what you said, bro. So, yeah, if you want to learn data science and AI stuff, then definitely learn Python first. If you want to learn web development, go down that route, then you definitely want to learn HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Learn those first. If you want to do mobile development, then learn probably Swift first, um, or Kotlin, or um, yeah, I mean, it really depends what you want to do. If you want to do like crazy server stuff, then I guess you could probably learn maybe like PHP or something. But I mean, probably not. Most people don't want to start with that. So probably one of those. So HTML, CSS, JavaScript is kind of like you can kind of jumble those together, or
Yep.
Python, or some mobile thing.
Yep.
Start with one of those, and then if you do want to get into like game programming and do some crazy stuff, then maybe you can learn C or C++ or Java later. But yeah, just kind of I mean, if you need one to start, if you guys don't even know what you want to do yet, just learn Python. I think it's
Hey,
the easiest. Start
exactly.
there, get the basics down. Once you kind of feel comfortable coding up little projects, then you can have the option to hop over to JavaScript, which is an HTML CSS, which is a little bit more complicated because there's more pieces intermingling and more like weird edge cases. Python is just cleaner to start with.
That's exactly what I was gonna
But
say,
then you can
actually.
you can start with Python. You can stick with Python if you like, of course, but then just start there. That would be the best one to start with as
Yep.
a beginner.
So the first answer, in my opinion, was like the right answer, what you need to start. But
Hmm.
then the second answer that Aaron just dropped right
The
now, I
practical
think is
answer.
the more opinionated and I think the more practical answer too, because both JavaScript and Python are very versatile languages that you can just, they're easy to learn as compared to Java. Because in my institution, in my college, I started off with Java. It's so hard to go from Java to start with Java specifically. When I learned about JavaScript, I was like, damn, this is way much easier. So, start with Python or JavaScript. I suggest Aaron does too. So,
Hmm.
in the
Yeah, and we got
beginning,
another $5 donation, Frankie, from
Oh, wow,
Intermin
let's see.
Arts. $5 donation. Thank you very much for that, man. We appreciate that.
Hey.
His question is, I'm going through video tutorials for Flutter. Anybody who doesn't know what Flutter is, um, it's from Google, I believe, and it's for creating mobile development, mobile apps, right? Mobile apps on all platforms. It's based on the programming language Dart, but Google created this framework where you can code in Flutter, and then it works on Android and iOS, and probably Google phones too, because it's from Google. I think it works on all platforms. So he's making through Flutter tutorials. He's going through Flutter tutorials, but he feels like he can't make things on his own. So is making projects a good solution? I want to freelance. Yeah, so we're actually going to talk about tutorial hell a little bit later, which is exactly what you're in right now. Is you keep following tutorials, but you can't make things on your own. So making projects is a good solution, but making it on your own, I guess we can touch on this a little bit early, and then we'll touch on it again later in the presentation. But basically, you want to, when you're going through tutorials, try to internalize the deeper rooted concepts that are being taught. Don't just like copy what's on the screen. It's kind of like when you're taking notes in class. If you just copy the bullet points of what it says on the PowerPoint, you're not going to retain it. You should watch the whole thing and then go back and then try to remember and recall stuff. So as they're going through the tutorial, try to actually watch a few lines of code or a little chunk of it, and then actually understand what they're doing. Then try to go code it yourself. Don't just like copy and paste the code line by line, because then you're just resuscitating one thing, and then you have this one app memorized, but you don't actually have the underlying principles internalized, which is what you actually want. Then at that point, you should be able to go and program your own apps afterwards. Like you have an idea in your head, and then you have the skills you got from the tutorial, and then now you can just put those together, and you can actually make your idea a reality. So short answer, yes, make your own projects. Be very conscious of actually understanding the ideas. Don't just spit out code. And then for freelancing, well, yeah, if you want to freelance, that's exactly what you need to do. You need to know how to create whatever the client wants created. So you need to be creating projects. Just think of cool projects and do it. Like make a Tinder clone, make a WhatsApp clone, like actually on your phone. Just try to like model these things and see if you can figure out how to do it. And get all the pieces you need and just put it together until it's a reality.
Yep. And the thing about Flutter is that, a lot of people want to learn Flutter right now because it's such a popular language or framework actually to learn. The programming language is Dart, used for it. But I've heard from a few developers that are actually in the industry that sometimes they're a little bit afraid to dive so deep into Flutter just because it's picking up, but you don't know how long it's going to last, right? It might be a trend, it might not be. I know it's made by Google, so that might just, tell everybody that it's going to be here for a while. But ultimately, you got to be aware of learning these type of languages that are very trendy because they might just go away. And Flutter and Dart are so new that right now a lot of people are actually making tutorials for it, but there's not as much, community and questions about Flutter as compared to something like JavaScript or Python or, even C++, which are more established languages. So, just be aware of that, and that's cool. And like Aaron said, just, build projects. That's going to be the thing that guarantees you the most results. So, going a little bit deeper into this, the first thing that you have to do is really learn the foundations of programming. So most of the people that learn programming do start out with the hello world command, or we
got another 100 I don't know this currency, but we got 100 something
Indian
donation
rupees.
That is Debjit. So thank you, Debjit.
Oh my god, thank you, Debjit. We appreciate it, man. From the other side of the world, man. That's amazing. Right now we are in LA, so it's beautiful to see people seeing the value in this and actually donating and everything. So we really do appreciate you, Debjit, and thank you so much, man.
All right, continuing on.
Going on with this.
Sorry, I interrupted you. What were you saying, Frankie?
Yeah, man. Most of the people that start off with development start off with Hello World. I started out with this. I was like, oh, damn, programming is easy, You start seeing how to run this. I'm like, damn, I'm a professional programmer now. Nobody can actually stop me.
Quick story. The reason it's Hello World is because the first time a computer ever actually printed something to the screen was they had this, because it was the very first computer ever saying hello to the world. So that's why it says Hello World. I thought it was kind of silly when I first thought it. I thought it'd be cool to type something else, but that's the history behind it. It's the very first time a computer spoke. It said hello world just like this because it was greeting the world for the first time back in the 50s.
Wow, really?
Long time.
That's insane.
Yeah, I don't know the exact time. I mean, the first computer, came from like 1940s from World War II, and then like computers like in the 50s and 60s started becoming more of a thing. In the 70s, Apple took over Macintosh, and then smartphones in 2007, and for history from there. Just
That's a good little
but
timeline for you
that's the
guys.
the general timeline of computers.
Awesome.
But
It's also so symbolic and cultural, this Hello World thing. But
yeah,
that's pretty much what people start with. Learning the foundations obviously is important. I think more importantly than even going into code itself is learn how to think logically. So we put this GIF here because we think it's funny. It's actually from The Hangover. You got to learn how to think logically, think step by step,
logically.
think problem solving, because
Hmm.
ultimately that's what coding is. Coding is not just random gibberish that you're writing on the screen. It's actually used to solve real problems. So thinking logically is going to take you way, way farther than somebody that just learns syntax. You know, Once you learn the
Hmm.
logic of it, then syntax comes to you naturally. But you
Yeah,
obviously have to pick up the syntax. There's
yeah.
no way around that.
Yeah. It's kind of the same as what we just said before, like being stuck in tutorial hell versus actually internalizing the concept. So just be logical about how you're solving problems instead of just regurgitating the same project. So
Exactly.
same flavor of idea there. But let's go to the next slide because this one's interesting. See this next one coming up. All right. So, Frankie, you want to start off with this since you put this presentation together? You want to
Yeah, man. I
what do you
really
lead with?
liked this diagram right here because it talks about data structures. There's
Yeah.
huge, huge, huge. What is it? It's so stereotypical to think that for you to begin programming, you have to become an expert in data structures and algorithms, right? Everybody's
Hmm.
afraid of data structures and algorithms. At the end of the day, man, let me just tell you that data structures is pretty much a way to organize data. You kind of have to know what you're playing with so that you can start building that specific thing in code. So let's say maybe you are, writing the data of, let's just say maybe some titles of some videos. You know, you have to find different ways that you can actually store that. You can do it in different ways. You can use arrays, you can use lists, and then
Hmm.
there's the difference here between non-primitive ones and then primitive ones. So
Hmm.
primitive ones would be integers, float, characters, and pointers. So, what's your experience with this, Aaron?
Yeah, so I mean, data structures, like if you're a complete beginner, then it probably sounds like this nasty, ugly word. You're like, okay, data and structures, like what the hell does that even mean? But like Frankie just said, yeah, it's just an overcomplicated way to say, yeah, how do we organize our data? Like, how does it look? Like, you can have numbers in your program, you can have words or sentences in your program. Like if somebody has a name, it's like, oh, like if you're trying to represent like somebody's data, like a person has a name, a person has an age, their name would be a word, their age would be a number. So like you want to find ways you can represent that. Then like it even breaks down a little bit further. Like numbers, you have the whole numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but also you have decimal point numbers, which is actually called floating point numbers. That's why it says float there. A floating point just means a decimal point can kind of float around, but it just means decimal point numbers. So that's a different kind of number, and you're like 1.1, 1.1, 1.111 because there's an infinite amount of them between like the numbers 1 and 2. So like that's another way you can organize data. You can represent data in there. So it's just kind of like boiling down these simple ideas and how do you actually have it in code. And then arrays is just like a list of numbers or a list of things. So like you could have like it's in an ordered way. Like if you have a list of people in a classroom in alphabetical order, then you can have like that all stuck together, and then you keep that together as a group. And that's just the most simple way to organize data. And then of course they get more complicated from there. But if you understand that underlying concept, yeah, it's just a way to keep your data nice and organized instead of just a bunch of ones and zeros in the computer. Then the programmer can actually understand, okay, this is a number, this is a name, this is a array or a list of a bunch of stuff, and then you can kind of like do stuff with the data once it's structured in the right way.
Yep. So, like you said, you can organize data in different ways. So, if you go the linear route, you can use things such as trees, binary trees or graphs. So, they always have a logic to it. Normally, the way that I started learning binary trees is actually by learning the patterns of it. Like, it was hard for me to kind of, visualize what direction does the, bigger number go, or
Hmm.
specifically you're trying to organize data. So, there's normally a logic whether you use, different algorithms like divide and conquer, or, just traversing through a linked list or anything related to that. So, if you're using a stack or a queue, then you're popping or pushing objects out of whether that's an array or a list or things of the sort. But you got to kind of get familiar with these things, because ultimately these pretty much are the building blocks of code. So this takes us to, learning algorithms. Ooh, algorithms. Everybody's super afraid of algorithms. And really what algorithm is pretty much is just a pattern. So we put this diagram right here, and, it says, what is an algorithm? So it's a set of rules to obtain the expected output from the given input. So, let's say Google, for example. Google has an algorithm. It's a search algorithm that whenever you search something, it's trying to pull the specific data of the words you use, the keywords you use. So it's going to filter out all of its data with the keywords that you're searching, right? So that algorithm is made to get that specific output. And you were talking about algorithms in your last class with the Python live calls, right, Aaron?
Yeah, the Python students. Yeah, so I want to mention something really quick before I dive too much into that. But yeah, there is algorithms. Like Google uses an algorithm where somebody puts in the search term, and then it'll run an algorithm, find all the stuff that matches your search term, and then spits it all out. So that in itself is an algorithm. Same with YouTube. It knows your preferences over time. Those are the inputs. It gets all your preferences, like, oh, what videos have you typed in the past? What things have you typed in? What tags did those videos have? What channels were those on? Are those channels related in any way? And then it's like, okay, I think you like all these things. So on your recommended page, it'll output different things. So those are like algorithms. The most simple algorithms, though, there's kind of two very simple ones that I want to explain. And those are simply just like sorting lists. So this goes back into what I was teaching in the class. So like I said in data structure. So first thing is data structures and algorithms go hand in hand. Data structures will actually like keep your data organized in a certain way, and then algorithms are like math algorithm things, like a list of steps you do to manipulate and move around that data to change it. So like the one example I'll give is if you have a list of numbers in random order, it's like just 1, 5, 7, 2, 6, 4, 8, whatever, just random numbers. One algorithm is how do you sort that list so it's in order, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. How would you do that? There's a series of steps you need to take any random list and put it into an ordered state. And that's just one thing you can do. But you need algorithms and data structures together. They both have to exist together to be useful. That's kind of the idea there. So you need to know both after you learn how to program. And data structures and algorithms are actually more like they're ideas. They're not so much code things, but they're ideas you need to know. And then you have to know how to put them in code. So those are two things you're also going to want to look into a little bit too. Again, on HackerRank, you'll be using both.
So it was sorting, and then what else? What was the other algorithm?
Searching. So let's say you have a list of numbers again, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You want to know, yes or no, does the number 8 exist in that list? If it does, where is it? Like at what spot? Like in the 8th spot or 1st spot or 7th spot? Or does it not exist at all? So that's like those are like the most basic algorithms you can have, is searching and sorting. And then on top of those, you can do crazy stuff like Google Maps does a algorithm to find the shortest path between your source point and your destination or something like that. And those kind of are all just based on these smaller algorithms, just built up on top of each other, and smaller data structures. Like a map, Google Maps, it's really just a graph, a bunch of like intersections and little roads that you go through, and then you just kind of need to find the algorithm through that graph, which is a data structure, to find the shortest path from this point to that point. So that's another example of kind of how data structures and algorithms go together, but you do need to know both to like be a real problem solver.
Yep, and don't be afraid of them, man. There's so many tutorials out there that can just teach you how to learn algorithms, how to learn data structures, so many different types of styles of learning it too, because I've seen people, map it out very visually. Some people just do it, with actual code. To me, that was really hard. Actually learning algorithms and learning data structures with actual code was super hard for me. So, like I said, I'm a visual person. And, speaking about algorithms, takes me to our next slide, which says really smash that like button. If you guys are enjoying this content, you're enjoying Aaron's knowledge drop and my knowledge drop, our both experience put together. Really, if you find value in this video, smash that thumbs up button so that we can actually help the YouTube algorithm boost this video out so more people can actually learn. So moving forward, one of the biggest things that you can do in your programming experience, developing that programming skill set, is
Yeah.
coding with friends. Because there's this, kind of is this stereotype, this Mr. Robot stereotype that, a guy with a hoodie is just kind of, coding in a dark room and everything like that. But at the end of the day, man, like, no company works like that. That's kind of not a real world representation of what a programmer actually does. And so whenever you can speak ideas to other people, you actually verbalize them and you try to organize your thoughts into sharing it with others, then it's like you're actually learning from what you're saying. Sometimes you haven't applied that knowledge. Sometimes you've never really explained it. You've never articulated it or anything like that. So, even you sharing it with another person helps you out a lot. But besides that, some person can be more advanced than you. So just coding with them, doing live share coding, just like Kazi and Sunny do, or Nas and Sunny and all of these guys do here in the channel to show you guys. That's kind of how you would work in a company with a team. So I really love coding with people. When I do code, just because I feel very lonely, it does take a lot of good mindset for you to be able to solve all of these problems, for you to learn Google the right thing, and really to go and play the long term. This is what you got to do. You got to find a community. You got to find like-minded individuals.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, being by yourself, like, I mean, even if you're an introvert, like, it's cool at some point, but even just find friends online and code with them, or like do a joint project. Be like, hey, I want to build the front end, you build the back end, and let's get together and put it together. It's a lot more fun being social in the way you're comfortable being social, whether it's online or in person, or coding on paper, if anybody's crazy enough to want to do that.
Yeah, bro, that's super cool. It's like you're merging skills. Like, let's say you just know front-end developer, like you said, front-end development, like you said. Then your friend knows back-end. And then you're picking up back-end and how to connect it with the front-end just by coding with your buddy. You're having fun and you're learning things that you probably wouldn't sit down and learn yourself. So that's super crucial. And one of the biggest things that you can do, that involves other people, is actually learning by teaching others. And this is known as the Feynman technique. A lot of people talk about this specifically just because it's so powerful. Kazi actually talks about this in a lot of his videos. It's been shown on studies that whenever you do, show somebody what you know, then it kind of just, crystallizes in your mind a little bit better. It kind of is easier for you to process. It's easier for you to get it stuck in your head. Also, whenever you're learning from a peer, it is shown that you're actually able to pick up way more from a person that is just a little bit, more advanced than you in a specific skill set than, let's say, your teacher. Your teacher has had 40 years of experience coding. For him, he takes for granted, certain things like, running a function, maybe using whatever data structure is needed for that specific, project or whatever you're working on in the moment. So sometimes these people take it for granted. And if somebody is just a little bit more ahead of you, then they can tell you, oh, bro, this is how this data structure works. This is how, you learn how to apply this. And then you actually digest it a little bit better. So, you can really dive deep into the Feynman technique and, apply it everywhere with everybody. Never stop doing it because, you're always going to learn more. So it's going to be good for you to teach what you've been learning.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely do that. And I personal experience in school, I was kind of like this stereotypical Asian A student. So a lot of my friends who were like B or C students would always come to me and ask for help on like little things here and there, because I was the guy with no life, doing my homework.
Asian. You must be smart.
Yeah, the stereotype. Yeah, I mean, like, there was other people smarter than me too, but I mean, the idea was that I did a lot of teaching myself, like helping my fellow classmates in undergrad, and by teaching it, it's even here at Clever Programmer, through teaching a lot of the stuff, like, it just keeps solidifying what you know, because like I said, if you're just spitting out the code in a tutorial, you're not going to internalize anything, but to teach it, you're forced to recall it yourself. You have to brush up, and then, like, while you're teaching it, you kind of have to understand it well enough to teach it. Then you really internalize it. So great. Even go to the degree of giving yourself a presentation. Like, teach it to yourself, like to your screen, and try to explain it to yourself as if somebody was there. And that in itself is the better way to take notes than to just like copy what's on the screen.
Yeah, that's like self Feynman
Yeah,
technique. I don't know how to say it exactly. How would you say it?
It's Feynman.
Feynman.
Yeah, Feynman is this world-renowned physicist. He's amazing at teaching physics. He's probably the best physics teacher that ever existed. I think he's still alive. I actually don't know, but
Wow.
his videos are phenomenal. So go check him out if you're interested in stuff. Like it blows my mind how
That's
good of a
awesome,
teacher
dude.
he is.
I've never seen his
Yeah.
videos. That's insane.
They're
I didn't know
so good.
that.
They're so good.
Why?
So
Like, why do you
I
think?
it's hard to explain. Just go watch him. But the idea is he's just a brilliant teacher, so that's why like his name carries weight, especially in this technique. And he's really good. He's really well known in the quantum mechanics, so like atoms and physics and like those gravity and all that stuff. He's kind of like another Einstein, but like a better teacher. Einstein wasn't really a teacher; he was just kind of like a mastermind.
Yeah.
But Feynman was like if you took Einstein and like the world's best teacher and put them together,
Damn.
that's kind of Feynman.
Yeah,
I mean, he's
you really
Ein-
don't,
Wolf,
you
but
really don't
he's
hear the Einstein technique.
yeah,
Okay.
the Einstein technique is be born as Einstein.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Feynman technique is really good. So definitely do that. guys.
Learning from other people, like we're talking about right now, really does lead us to one of the biggest things that you can do in coding, as simple as it sounds, is really learning to ask the right questions. So, it sounds simple, but it's actually very hard in my opinion. When I started off coding, the biggest problem that I had was whenever I had a problem that I couldn't solve, it was very hard for me to verbalize it. Like there's so many answers to different coding problems and how to solve them, maybe using Stack Overflow and all of these things. But ultimately, it's like you don't even know how to Google. So don't even feel like you're asking that many questions if you're really not processing, what your teacher is teaching you in school, what you're learning in a tutorial. Go Google it, go learn it, actually ask questions. So don't be afraid of that. At the end of the day, most of the people in my experience are actually not going to look down on you. Most people think that you'll look stupid by asking stupid questions. And, there's that saying that says there's no stupid questions, there's only stupid people. I mean, I don't know about that, but at the same time, no question goes to waste. It's all about improving your skill set. So, at the end of the day, learning how to, build that question so that you can find that correct answer is a big part of Googling what you were trying to get, right? So
Yeah, people in the
here's
comments are actually saying Feynman passed away. Yeah, so unfortunately, yeah. I mean, yeah, he must have passed away a few years ago, but
oh man,
that answers that. I know. Yeah, he was an
his
amazing,
legacy
amazing
still
teacher.
is still
Yeah,
living
I'm
with us.
gonna dive back. Of course, I mean he's gonna be affecting physics and teachers going into the future forever. But getting back to this, so yeah, the ability to code. Frankie, you want to start off with this? This is
Yeah, man, I
hilarious.
love I love this meme right here. So first off, let's start here. So Futurama,
Uh-huh.
we love Futurama. Not sure if I'm a good developer or good at Googling, you know. So
They're
the
synonymous.
exactly,
alert.
man. You have to learn how to Google if you want to become a good developer, because most of the things in development, the thing that is going to take you really, really far with it is being very resourceful. So, actually
Problem
learn
solving. That's all it is.
exactly,
Googling is actually just problem solving.
exactly.
You have a problem, you figure it the hell out, and
Yep.
then give your results to your client or your employer, and that's really it.
Yep. You want to explain this little meme here?
Yeah, so on the left, Frankie showed me this morning. I laughed out loud for like minutes, but yeah, pretty much. So when you start working as a programmer, you want to type into Google like how to get date in C++. I mean, that's not date as in like a date with a person, but like date as in like today's date. And then 10 years of experience later, you search the same exact thing, how to get the date in C++. That's very, very accurate because you're never going to memorize everything.
Exactly.
So you're always Googling everything. The only things you really memorize is kind of the underlying ideas and principles. But this is very true. Like go to Google itself, like go to the actual company Google and ask all the developers there. I bet they use Google all the time and doing the code stuff they do at Google. So kind of like a
Yeah, man, it's really funny, like people think you're gonna as advanced, like the more advanced that you get, the more you're able to memorize. But it's not really true. You kind of just learn to recognize patterns. And at the end of the day, you're always kind of just Googling it again. So you have to never ignore that specific skill. I know it sounds simple. I know it sounds kind of dumb, but it's really, really important. And any developer that has, many years of experience doing it, or, actually has had any problems doing it, they're going to know that this is the correct way, the correct actual roadmap to follow to get those answers. So there's so many different ways to learn to code, especially if you're starting off. One of the big, resources that we can talk about right now is YouTube. Like right now you guys are on YouTube watching coding content. how to learn and actually, diving yourself deep into whatever specific topic you want to learn, right? So YouTube
Yeah.
is a free resource, and we love it because of that. It's actually, you can learn so deeply in YouTube. Just because it's free, it doesn't take anything away from it. You can learn very advanced things here.
Yeah, like our channel is the perfect example. There's a lot of other coding channels too. Derek Bonas, the OG. He was like one
Oh,
of the first
man.
ones early on.
I miss it.
But leading up to like the new guys now, who's the newest guy? Like, Callie Halden.
Callie
Like,
Halden, Trevor
he's like the
all
new
these
one.
guys.
Yeah, these new guys.
Programming with
Are
Mosh,
better.
clever
Yeah,
programmer.
yeah.
By the way,
But,
guys, right now we are the number one fastest growing programming YouTube channel in the planet. So give a thumbs up for
I mean
that.
on, right?
On the planet, at the same time, man, it's I'm super grateful for this. It's crazy, so much work that we've put into it. This last year we just saw the views, the value that we're giving to people just boom and bloom, and people are actually
Yeah.
being grateful for it, getting a lot of jobs and everything.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's amazing, man. It's an amazing journey. But going back
Yeah.
to the resources, I think Team
Yeah.
Treehouse is also one that's very, very famous, and most people actually know it. We actually had an interview with Ryan Carson, Kazi did, and this guy is amazing. He's the CEO of Team Treehouse. I love the guy because he has a really good purpose, and it's amazing just to follow him on social media, IG, Instagram, or just follow Team Treehouse. It's an interesting way of learning. It's very interactive as well. So
I mean, these are all similar. All these platforms are probably very similar in the sense that there's videos and then there's some written stuff and then you do projects. So
Exactly.
a lot of them are good. I mean, these are the leading ones, definitely. Coursera is also really good there on the right-hand side. I know MIT posts a lot of their courses on Coursera, or at least a few I went through personally. So
Using
that's a really good
Coursera?
one too. Yeah, Coursera, Udacity. I think we have Udacity on the next slide and stuff. But there's a few. Udemy even. I never personally used Udemy, but I heard a lot of good things about that too from other people. But honestly, you can't go wrong with any of these if you're starting out. But yeah, just find the one that you like a lot. And then the more important thing is actually doing. So
Yep.
these are good resources, but make sure you're on Hacker. Make sure you're on HackerRank doing the projects and stuff.
yeah, man. I remember
The
when I
challenges.
first learned about what was Udacity. I was actually in Mexico City. That was funny. I was in an Airbnb, and I had this guy that was living there. He was a Jewish guy from New York, and he would do sales for programming for computer companies actually, and he made a lot of money, in my opinion, like 200K plus. But he was telling me, he was like mind blown. He was like, "Yo," or he didn't say that, but he was like, "Hey man, have you heard about Udacity?" And I'm like, "No, what is that?" He's like, "It's Google's new tech school. Like they
It's
actually."
from Google?
You didn't
Oh,
know?
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I
Udacity
didn't
is
know it was
from
from
Google.
Google. I mean, actually, my time at Georgia Tech, we use Udacity. A lot of Georgia Tech's courses are hosted on Udacity. So MIT is on
Oh.
Coursera, but Georgia Tech is on Udacity. So like actually the courses that I took, a lot of them are on digital format on Udacity, like my computer vision course, machine learning, high performance computing, self-driving cars and robotics and stuff. Like all these different classes are available. You can watch all the lectures, you can do the quizzes. It's just you don't get the projects, you don't get the professor's help on the fly, you don't get the classmates, and you don't get the degree. But I mean, you can still get the content for free.
On Coursera,
So
right?
it's great on Udacity for Georgia Tech stuff.
Oh,
and
I
then
see. Because
Coursera,
Udacity has
MIT
code
stuff.
reviews and everything actually. I think. Now.
Yeah, a little bit. So yeah, each of these platforms has their own little cool quirk, but at the end of the day, they're all useful.
I mean, and guys, if you really want to take it next level with, learning how to become a JavaScript developer, getting, reviews on your code, having weekly live calls with experts, teaching you how to code, where are your roadblocks and all of this, check out our course Profit with JavaScript. And it's going to be on the description below. We've helped at
absolutely.
this point hundreds of developers to gain a job, gain internships, gain their first, money coding, whether that's freelancing on a job or anything related to that. So it's a beautiful, beautiful, product that we put together for you guys. And it actually, we're doing it with a lot of love just because we kind of saw a need in the industry. Nobody else is doing this type of work. It's such a complete course. So if you
It's a
really,
great community too.
Exactly,
we have
man.
like thousands of students in there that you can talk to.
It's
So,
surprising. Like I'm really literally mind blown every time that I look at it. It's so engaging and everybody's so positive too. So, you know, we were influenced by companies like Treehouse, Coursera, and even Udacity. So that's really a good, you know, resource that you can dive into as well if you want to learn this
Yeah.
for reals.
Yeah, absolutely. And hey, Frankie, actually, and guys, everybody watching the stream, I gotta dip out. My friend is moving houses today, and I gotta help him move some stuff. So
Sounds
I'm
good,
gonna
brother.
leave you guys with Frankie. Me leaving this isn't gonna end the stream, right? I don't think it's gonna break any tech, will it?
No, I don't think.
I hope not. What I'll do is I'll just like close my video and mic, and I'll just leave it running just in case, because I don't want to cut the stream by accident. All right.
Awesome,
But
brother. Take it easy,
hey
man.
guys, I'm gonna dip out. You guys are in Frankie's hands. He's great, so he'll finish up with you guys. And for everybody who donated, thank you much. Greatly appreciated. And yeah, I'll catch you guys later. All right, Frankie.
Take it easy, guys. Bye-bye, Aaron. So going back to this, guys, you know, talking about coding resources and all of this, I do want to touch on the fact that, you know, there's so many of them. So I already talked about 4 of them. We think ours is really a good way to start with. At the end of the day, you can learn from everywhere. Like I said, there's paid courses, there's free content. I would suggest start off with the free content and then go to the paid courses. So right now, I think that Codecademy is actually a good resource to learn from. Another one would be Khan Academy. That's a classic, man. So many people actually learn from Khan Academy, and it's actually funny, you know, to think about how exactly, you know, you can learn from courses that are already recorded, from courses that, you know, people that are experts are actually teaching you. So a lot of times, you know, it's not as bad to actually pay for the things, because ultimately when you pay, like people always say, you're not only paying to learn, you're paying for attention. So it's going to be worth it at the end, and you should really invest in yourself if you want to pick up a skill that you can pretty much monetize your whole life. You know, in coding, you know, that's what I say all the time. At the end of the day, give me 1 second here. Having a little bit of trouble with this. So, you know, ultimately with coding and specifically, 1 second, guys. Here we go. So coding specifically, you know, it's a skill set that you can never forget pretty much. So you can always make money from it. It's good if you want to invest in a specific, you know, skill for yourself. So moving forward with the whole presentation, guys, I think a really good resource for you guys to learn and be a little bit more practical about it and find more challenge in this would be frontendmentor.io. Just because in frontendmentor.io, like I said, there is challenges for you to learn front end, whether that's design, functionalities, and all of this. Right now, web development is on the rise. So learning how to web develop right now is very versatile. You know, you can develop web applications, you can develop, you know, just websites for businesses and things like that. It's actually a very sellable skill. And this is one of the actual resources that I like a lot. Actually, Amanath Mumtaz added this here because he's very familiar with this specific thing. So let me look at the comments. How are you guys doing here? Yeah, I know HackerRank is definitely good. I know Lead Code is really good. I've seen so many people actually, you know, ace it in interviews by learning how to, you know, do either algorithms, solve problems, and all of this in Lead Code. It's also funny that there's also memes going around the internet right now, and they talk about how, let me actually move Aaron from this. Cool, because he's not here anymore. So, you know, Lead Code is interesting because a lot of people they think that they know programming, but then they go to Lead Code and they can't solve anything. That's actually what happened to me in the beginning. I was trying to solve challenges, solve problems, and that's what I was saying in the beginning. Somebody asked if competitive programming was the right way to go, and I was like, bro, well, honestly, you have to think about, you know, your personality. What are you looking to do? Because if you're just gonna follow something to put it on your resume, you're not gonna last a long time, man. So all of these resources are really helpful. You know, I want to dive into the most important thing for me, in my opinion. If you really do want to, you know, establish your skill in learning how to code, would be building and choosing projects. So this is the most important thing in my opinion. It's hard, man, to actually choose a project in the beginning because you don't know anything. You know, in my opinion, I've actually heard this from a lot of people too. Work on projects that can actually, you know, that you would use, that people would benefit from. because if you're just doing something to do it, let's say you're doing a boring website, you're never going to stick with it. So, actually look for a need in the market. Let's say in your certain area. Like, this is what happened to me. I'm from Calexico. It's a small town. It's a border town with Mexico. It's here in California. But what I saw there is like nobody used Yelp. Yelp is a food app that tells you, the restaurants, tells you reviews of the restaurants that are around you and everything, when they're open, all of this. Nobody in Calexico used Yelp. And so when I barely started programming, I'm like, damn, I want to do a certain platform like Yelp that, I can actually show other people what type of restaurants are popping here in the area. Because I loved food, man. Growing up, I was like 18, 19 at this time. Right now I'm 25. So I was 18, 19 at that time. And I was like, okay, I want to go eat at this specific place. And I couldn't find anything on the web. So there was a need for that specific app. And I was trying to develop it, So really use something that can be useful for you, useful for others. If not, you're really not going to learn as much. It's also not going to be as transferable in other projects that you're going to do in the real world, because, companies are pretty much made by helping other people. So you're helping solve a problem, right? Like, just like Amazon delivers things to your door, just like Netflix, delivers entertainment to everybody's houses. Now you don't have to go to freaking Redbox or rent a movie or anything like that. Everything that companies do is to provide value. And so at the end of the day, man, it's choose a project that people are going to like, that is going to look good on your portfolio, that is going to look good on your resume, that people find it useful, whether that's a project that you would use or others would use. But moving along, this is another example of the project that you can build. We built the Amazon clone a few weeks back, and it's killing it, man. I think it's at 200,000 views right now? It's insane. That growth was just insane for us. So, Sunny and Kazi actually worked on this. This is not the real Amazon, guys. It is actually a clone. So it has functionalities like you can add things to the basket. The basket actually calculates the prices of the things that you're adding to it. And, it's a very well-rounded type of project, because not only does it look good, but it also has a little bit of backend functionality using NoSQL databases like Firebase. So, you have to kind of learn the technology that you're going to use for specific projects. Like I said, if you're going to do web development, then actually learn, whether that's JavaScript, Vue.js, different frameworks like that, or React, or maybe a little bit of backend with Firebase, or maybe using, Node.js for that. So those tools are really going to dictate what project you're going to build, how your project is going to look, and all of this. Now, looking at the comments a little bit, let us see what's going on here. Self-taught versus bootcamp versus CS degree, which is better? Joe Bayer Mohammed asks. Man, that's a very, very interesting question. That's a very also popular question. I think it's both. we're having that freaking inside joke here in the company. Both, just like Gary Vee says that about everything, Gary Vaynerchuk. And man, if you go to a coding boot camp, at the end of the day, this is what I've heard, and I like this philosophy. At the end of the day, everybody is a self-taught developer, because if you went to school for a CS degree, I mean, bro, like I went to a few community colleges here in California. I went to my university too, Cal State Dominguez Hills, and at the same time, I was like, wow, no teacher really invests that much time to teaching their students. It's like these guys. And that's my experience with it. You guys might have different experience with it. But a lot of times I would find that teachers would just kind of explain the minimum for me to pick it up, but never going that deep. And if I needed, individual attention, sometimes they would, provide it. Most of the time they wouldn't. So what I would do in my classes, in my college classes, is I would always find people that were better at coding than me. So it's not to say that you're going to leech from other people just because they know more about you, more about a certain topic than you. But what I would do is I would provide, I feel like myself, let me just take a drink here. I myself actually, I think I'm a person that is a little bit more social, and I can bring people together. I see that a lot. And so what I wanted to do with these guys that were a little bit more analytical than me and a little bit better at programming is that I brought value to them by showing them, either making them meet other people or just bringing good energy with them, to them, showing that, I know myself a lot of things too, and just sharing my own knowledge, bringing some value, because, nobody's going to want to work with you if, you're just leeching from somebody. So, we got Kazi here in the back just visiting. And yep, he's pretty much looking at something. I don't know what he's taking an Instagram story. But yeah, you guys, if you do enjoy this content, tag us on our Instagram story. Aaron just left, but here's my handle. Let me take that away from him. And Kazi's dancing in the background. So, I was talking about building projects, working with people and all of that. What is that, a story?
No, we're on the team.
Oh, damn. What's up, guys?
The whole team. I'm on a Zoom call with the whole team, guys. This is Rachel right over here. So hold on, let's get them focused. That's
nice.
Sheila right there. That's Nas. Who else we got? We got Amanath.
Hey.
And
Amanath helped with this presentation as well. This guy's a killer, man.
Let's see who else we got. Do we have anybody else? Of course, we have Nas, the infamous Nas.
Yeah, what's up, guys? Yeah, man, we love it. We normally have, team meetings every day.
Every day,
10 a.m. Every day, bro, with that Disney Channel flow.
Nice. Thanks, job.
Wait. Let's get that focus in.
Sick, right? Look at that.
Let us go. So awesome, guys. That was Kazi dropping in, saying hi. But I was saying, man, college is a good way to start. Ultimately, you're always going to become a self-taught developer. You're learning by yourself. Whether you're in college, you're learning on yourself. Whether you're in a coding bootcamp, and you're learning on yourself if you're a self-taught developer. Literally. So coding bootcamps are good. I've had a lot of experiences, people telling me that they're actually very expensive and you don't get that much practical knowledge from it. So, and that comes from helping so many developers, talking to so many developers that come to our programs. I'm like, what didn't you like about the coding bootcamp? And normally this is always the answer that they tell me. They're like, honestly, coding bootcamps are cool. They do teach you a lot because they're project based, and really that's how they're used to sell them. But they kind of just give you the frameworks, give you the tools, and leave you alone. And most of them are not, so interactive like that. So if your style of learning involves, working with other people, if your style of learning involves being more visual, having more fun, being in a community, and, actually learning with, like I said, other people, man, coding bootcamps, some of them at least could be a good option for you. But you have to choose which one specifically to go into. I know that, most importantly, you have to work with real people, because if people do care about you, they're going to actually teach you very deeply. They're going to transfer their knowledge to you. And really, I didn't list this here, but I think finding a mentor is actually one of the biggest decisions you can do in your life, because, man, people have put in a lot of work into learning how to code. So, why are you learning it yourself from scratch? Maybe just kick it, hang out with somebody that has 10 years of experience over you. Literally, with the conversation that you have with these people, it's like you're already shortcutting about 2 years. So you're just feeding on their knowledge. It's amazing, man. And it's also the bouncing back of ideas between minds is amazing. Napoleon Hill talks about it in all of his books. He calls it the mastermind effect, right? When two people have the certain same goal in mind, then these two minds fuse. And as long as both are positive, if like somebody's dragging you down, and let's say you're working on a project and they're like, oh man, I hate problem solving this specific thing, I don't know how to search, I don't know how to do this query search or whatever you're trying to look for in that database, and they're bringing you down with that energy, you're probably not going to get that far. So it's really important for you to be a team player, for you to have good energy and bring that to the table. And so, finding a mentor is actually a good way for you to learn yourself. So, we're speaking about different projects that you can create. So let's go back into that. What I see a lot of people, and I saw myself so much in this specific position, is, living in tutorial hell. Man, this is one of the longest things that you can really be, fully engulfed in, and it's tutorial hell. Because it's funny because the internet provided us with a lot of knowledge, but at the same time this thing is holding you back. Tutorials are holding you back from actually implementing the knowledge that you get, right? So tutorial hell, the things that happen here is we're going to explain it in 3 simple steps. So most of the time, people sometimes don't know what tutorial hell is. So tutorial hell, just to explain it really quick for you, is you follow along a tutorial and understand everything they do, and you too create what they do by coding along. So you're following a tutorial, you're following along everything. You're like, oh damn, I'm a genius. I can just follow everything. I can just, build this project on my own. I don't even need this anymore. But then as soon as you go out alone and try to build this specific thing, you cannot create things anymore. So you're always relying on tutorials. And it's like that knowledge never sticks to you. So what I'm going to suggest to you guys is, if you are following a tutorial, then go back to that tutorial, try to grab something from it and apply it to your own projects. So tutorials are there for you to find specific things and apply them elsewhere. Because if you don't do that, then your knowledge is not going to be concrete. You're not going to have practical knowledge of it. You're not going to have any, muscle memory, as to say, to apply these specific things. So, get out of tutorial hell, apply what you find in tutorials. Never just follow tutorials just to follow them, because that won't stick to you. So why are you stuck in tutorial hell? Well, one, and Amanath, I give him credit for this. He actually put this in the slides. I really like it so much. And he's talking about why you were in tutorial hell. So you find it easy. Following tutorials is pretty freaking easy, especially if somebody has 10 years of coding and they're just going along some code and they're reading it to you. And you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But dude, like, you wouldn't be able to write that at all. You wouldn't even be able to Google that to write that. That's how I would put it to you guys. So, it does give you a sense of progression. So it seems like you're picking up so much knowledge just because you're being, shown so much code and you're processing all of this. Although it's good for you to be in that environment and actually just digest and consume all of that code, all of that practice, ultimately, if you never apply it, it's just not going to stay, man. It's literally like somebody teaches you how to do a push-up. They're like, okay, bro, you have to put your arms like this, and then you push back, and then you retract your scapula, and then you go back, and then make sure you push back again. So they're explaining to you theoretically. But if you never do a push-up, then you're never going to know exactly how to do it, right? So that's, I think, one of the good examples that I can think of right now. And one of the things that leads me to tutorial hell and applying this knowledge is actually looking for great projects that you can start in. So there's so many basic projects that you can start with. I think that actually I'm going to mention this, and I like this a lot. He was talking about the fact that, most people that start off coding actually start off with really, really big projects. And so going into big projects is going to discourage you a lot of times if you don't know a lot of code. So what we say is start off with a small project, okay? Start off with a small project, get yourself a good win, a small project that can actually, show you few important functionalities, whether that's right here, we're listing out a basic JavaScript calculator, maybe the tic-tac-toe game. We actually have this in our channel. It's upwards of 200,000 views, and Aaron actually made this tutorial. So when I learned Swift, the beginning of Swift, my first project was a calculator. And I was like, oh wow, Swift is pretty easy. Because I was coming from Android Studio and using Java. I was like, okay, Swift is pretty easy. I'll jump into that. So this was my first project in general. Another good idea would be a digital clock or even a Pomodoro timer. So I love Pomodoro timers. While we were working on this specific presentation, I was using Pomodoro. So it's funny, man. It's a good technique to use. You normally do sprints of about 25 to 45 minutes, then take a break of 5 to 15 minutes. And if you do that, it's good because it gets the ball rolling. It makes the, I call it the machine oiling up, because you kind of get warmed up to starting to work, and then you can go for long periods of time. But guys, remember that you always have to give yourself time to rest between periods, because if not, you're going to get burnt out. If not, you're just going to be kind of, running around like a headless chicken, because your head is just so stuck into the code that you can't take a step back and then assess the problem that you're having. So let's see here what's going on with the comments. Where to find those jobs, asks Beast Beta. Well, there's so many ways to find different jobs. You do have to start off by building projects, building your portfolio, your resume, all of this, building experience. So I'd say get clients maybe first and build the projects on your portfolio, so that whenever you do come up to an interview, you have experience, you have actual practical knowledge that has been applied and people have gotten value from it. So there's different ways to get it depending where you are in the world. If you want to become a freelancer, then there's so many freelancing websites, Upwork, freelancer.com, People Per Hour. All of these are great freelancing opportunity websites. But if you do want to find a job, maybe look at Indeed, maybe look at monster.com, maybe look at, there's so many of them, man. It all depends on the country that you're in. Another one is social media. A lot of people forget social media. And I know for a fact that, for example, our friend Jacob, he was in the Clever Programmer team. He actually just went out to start his own startup, which is amazing and very inspiring, man. This guy is very, very young too. He's about, I think, 22 at this point. But Jacob actually gets a lot of his clients from Instagram because he does have a good Instagram following. So, you have to make your online presence if you really want to go far with code, in my opinion, because that's only going to open up more opportunities for you. And that's a really, really good way to look at jobs. But going to, the basic projects that you can build, another one would be a chess game. And one that I really like a lot would be, it's actually right here. So it would be web scraping using Python. And web scraping is actually pretty freaking cool because it's not that hard, to be honest. Like if you have very basic knowledge of programming, then you can do web scraping. And web scraping pretty much is you're scraping a website for specific, whether that's text, whether that's, data in general that you're trying to get from there. A lot of companies, a lot of freelancing opportunities actually use web scraping. So I think web scraping using Python is a great, great tool to learn. We actually had one of our students, his name was Ryan, and he was making about $20,000 to $25,000 a month by creating huge, web scraping projects that companies would pay for. So it seems pretty simple, but at the same time, companies pay a lot for it. So these are just some examples here. We're going to be moving along. We do have the 30-minute rule, which we talk about a lot. All of this content is it's in Clever Kazi Instagram and, the Clever Programmer Instagram as well. So the 30-minute rule is very important in my opinion because it teaches you constant action. It teaches you continuity. It teaches you how to build momentum. It teaches you consistency. So the 30-minute rule, really dictates that you should be putting in at least 30 minutes a day. Every single day. So let's say you put in 30 minutes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day. If you're putting in 30 minutes 6 times a day, a week you would have, going back to this, you would have, let me write this down so you guys can see it. So there's 6 right here, and in total that would be 3.5 hours per week programming. So it's better for you to do 30 minutes a day instead of doing, let's say, 1 hour or 3 hours every week. The consistency of it is just going to take you that much farther, and it's also going to become a little bit more habitual for you. So you're trying to ingrain a habit into your own teachings, and really I think this is a perfect way to jump in it. So if you do have it on a monthly basis, let's say you're doing 30 minutes every 6 days, and there's four weeks, right? So that would be literally 14 hours a month. So in my opinion, honestly, you should probably code way more than 14 hours a month, just because it's that type of thing. At least for my mind, if I'm learning something related to math, like I always forget it the next week. If I'm not practicing it, I always forget it. So 14 hours a month is good if you're doing 0 hours. But if you really want to learn this and take this to the next level, get really high paying jobs with this, I think at least you should code 20 hours or more a month, without a doubt, and ultimately I think it's a good technique to follow. You can just, instead of making maybe 30 minutes, you can do 1 hour. So 1 hour for 6 days would be even almost double than 3.5 hours. That would be 6 hours a week. And it's a good way, man. Sometimes people, they overwhelm themselves by putting huge goals for them to reach. I'm really that person. I put really huge goals for myself. Sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, I want to make these many sales. I'm going to create all of these things. I'm going to do all of this. And then I fall short, so it's a big lesson for me. It has been all my life that I have to kind of like moderate the type of, goals that I set for myself. So, going back to this specific time that you're putting into everything, let's say you do have 6 months and you're putting in 30 minutes a day, 6 days a week. So in 6 months, you would have 84 hours of coding. And man, 84 hours is a pretty big milestone. You're going to learn a lot with that. But at the same time, guys, I don't want you guys to think like, okay, I'm putting in 30 minutes a day, so that means that my skill level will be at this point. Well, that's cool and all, but nope, that is not true. It's more about the actual quality of the time that you're putting in. It's not like, okay, I'm gonna put 30 minutes and then you're gonna become an expert. Nope. You actually have to make your knowledge practical and build projects. So if you're putting in those 30 minutes, actually implement something. Don't just be reading theory, because that's gonna hold you back a lot. That's gonna keep you in tutorial hell. But like I said, 6 months then would be 84 hours. And if you do that in a year, that would be 168 hours. Screaming emoji. So, it's funny because 168 hours is a lot, but I'd say if you're trying to get really, really far with code, do try to get about 200 hours plus a year. Because, man, hours pass by really fast. And most of the people, may have programming jobs, may have full-time jobs, may have, a lot of different things that they're on. But at the same time, you have to find time for the things that you want to learn. And learning a skill is definitely worth it. So, keep at it, guys. Another thing that we're going to touch is going to be, develop a programmer's mindset. Because it's funny, man. A lot of people do end up ignoring the fact that programming has a lot of psychological aspects to it. And one of the biggest things is the stamina of it. So many people cannot find a way to stop that anxiety that they find themselves in when they cannot solve a problem. And it's really good, like I said before, to actually have people around you that have good energy, because ultimately you want to go for the long-term game, and you want to be able to push yourself. And it's not always going to be easy, let me tell you that. Most of the time it's not going to be easy. So just following whether that's a very healthy mind regimen, whether that's meditating, whether that's using stress reduction techniques, whether that's being around the right people, and also thinking that you can actually do it, because there's always an answer to the problem that you're getting at. But you have to be resourceful. You have to learn how to learn, and you have to learn how to ask questions. So going back to this, it would be developing that mindset, like I said. And also a big one, man, is people start so many projects. And we're talking about projects. It's sometimes hard to choose what project you want to work in. But ultimately, like I said, work on something that you would use, work on something that somebody else would use, because that keeps you accountable to make it practical in the world. Because programming is pretty much that, finding answers to problems that are in the world right now. So if you do start a project, make sure that you finish that project, guys. That's one of the biggest problems that I see with most people. They start off a project and they leave it halfway. So they can never really put it in the resume. Even if they put it on your resume, it kind of looks like it's not even that deep, So it just shows the type of work ethic, the type of habits that you find yourself in. And, it's funny because you're already starting it, so why are you not finishing it? So let's read a little bit of these comments right now that I'm seeing. It says, let's see. It's Shaz1 asks, what kind of coding should I do in that 30 minutes? It's funny because, coding is very practical in my opinion. So if you're just learning theory, that's cool. If you're learning the basics, if you're learning new types of, whether that's functions, new classes that you can use, that's awesome, because you got to have that knowledge to be able to apply it. But ultimately, what's going to take you farther is actually building a project, because since you're solving specific problems, you're trying to gather maybe, for example, data from a database, or scraping some data from a website, or actual things that can solve a problem. That's what's going to stick to you. So, use your time wisely. If you only have 30 minutes a day to try to solve a problem, don't just, stuff yourself with so much theory. Let's see what else is here. I hate theory. Zen to A says. That's funny. Yep, Elijah Fuller actually says, what's up, Elijah? How's it going, man? I miss you. I love the project that you were doing in Python, by the way. He's part of our PWJ and Profit with Python community, actually. So Elijah says, also these hours need to be quality, undistracted hours to get the best effect. that is so true, man, because I was talking about the quality of the 30 minutes is so important. And what happens a lot, like right now I was recording and there was like Kazi was here, Amberly was here, and it's funny because I'm the type of person that I have to be kind of very centered in what I'm doing, and sometimes my mind just like wanders around everything that is around me. So if you're starting to code, you have 30 minutes, sit down and actually get to a quiet place. Don't have kids running around, don't be driving your car and like freaking looking at a tutorial, nothing like that, man. Just sit down, give yourself some time to learn and actually digest all of these things. One of the big hacks that I've learned myself is actually to play binaural beats. So binaural beats are actually funny because they're used a lot for meditation and stuff. And one of the things that I can give you guys a lot of tips. I actually showed this to Sonny and he told me he started using it, which is pretty awesome, man. To see that somebody's finding a lot of value from it. So programming in general is very stressful. So what you want to do is be focused on what you're doing and also take things slow. Also be able to digest things, have an expanded mind for you to think and problem solve. So I would suggest that you guys put on alpha binaural beats, just because alpha waves are shown to be able to help you learn a little bit faster. So you can either use alpha waves or theta waves if you're trying to become more creative. So there's a spectrum of waves that I can show you guys, but I'm going to skip that out for later in case you guys want to just research it yourselves. You can just go to Google and search binaural beats. So, it's two beats put together. One beat may sound like whoa, 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 and the other one may sound like whoa. And those put together kind of gives you a funny frequency. And those are the frequencies that your brain works in. So your brain has different frequencies while it's doing different things. If it's sleeping, it's doing delta. And if it's learning or being creative, it's using theta. And if it's trying to focus more, it's alpha, things like that. So that's just one example of it. Another thing is that, most people that do start off with code, they're trying to learn so many things at once. And that's the hard part about it, man. There's so much knowledge. The topic is so broad that you can just go on forever and ever. So really look for what you want to do. Really find what type of work you want to do, like whether that's freelancing, work for a company, whether that's creating projects that solve problems, whether that's, bringing analytics to specific companies, because nowadays, all companies are going to use a lot of analytics just to grow. It's going to be such a big thing right now in the industry. So think about what you want to do, and that's going to take you to mastering the language that you need. And starting off, just master one language, okay? So that's one of the problems that I had myself. I went into Java because that's what I learned in school. And then from Java, I was playing with assembling because that's another thing that they teach you in school. I don't know why schools are so outdated. That's cool. At the same time, it kind of just spread me too thin, and I should have just learned Java deeply. But what I ended up doing was that I actually went to JavaScript, and when I learned JavaScript, I was like, damn, this is actually pretty cool. It's similar to Java, but it's way easier. But the cooler part about it is that I was able to see what I was doing. So, the thing about it, though, is that I was already about 2 years into my learning when I learned JavaScript. And I never really picked up Java because I was focusing on so many languages. So if you are able to master one specific language, then you can just jump into other languages. So, don't try to not limit yourself by going into one language. First I'd say go deep and then expand, and I think that's going to take you longer, be playing the long-term game a little bit more, and actually going to ground you more into learning the functionalities of programming. It's hard, man. Programming is really hard. So try to make it easy for you. Try to make it digestible for you. And really, like I always say, apply the knowledge that you have. Because if not, knowledge will just stick in your head, man. And why do you need so much knowledge if you're not sharing it? So one big thing here that Sunny talks about all the freaking time is value-driven growth versus over-engineering. Sometimes, and that takes me to, finishing your project, man. Sometimes what happens, let me take a sip here, guys. I'm drinking this Celsius. I actually love this drink. Let me see. Can you guys see this? It's cool. It's like a healthy energy drink, but it's funny if you guys want to check it out. So, value-driven growth is funny because a lot of people, They want to go deep into projects and add so many functionalities to it. And it's like, yeah, man, I'm going to add the search functionality to it. I'm going to add hover effects. I'm going to add drop shadows once you're touching the screen. I'm going to add, margins that, I don't know, do explosions, drop confetti, crazy things, man. People go very deep into the functions that they add to projects. Thing is, you got to think about keeping things essential. So you want to keep the foundational things that will make an app work. So start off by the most important functionalities that you need. So let's say you're building a calculator. Before even doing exponents, which is a little bit more advanced, try to just start with adding. Then once you add adding, then add subtracting, then maybe add multiplication, and then maybe add division. And then you can go to doing exponents. So that's just an example of it, guys. You start off by doing the basic things and then stem out from that, branch out from that. Because a lot of people do try to over-engineer, and that's the main problem that I see with people that are, not finishing their projects, people that always say that they have this big idea, but they're never done with it. So that really sucks, and it's really going to hold you back. Most companies do focus on value-driven growth, so never forget that, guys. Let's see what's going on here in the comments. So which is the best language to learn in 2020? Hugo Dicenzo asks. And I would pull these to the screen, but right now I'm not seeing it that I can pull them up. So I'm just reading it to you guys. It's interesting, man. Everybody has different opinions with the best language to learn in 2020. I would say very opinionated view would be start out with Python, start out with JavaScript, because Python can lead you anywhere, whether that's the more data side of programming, machine learning, AI, all of this. And JavaScript is gonna be, very versatile as well. If you want to do any web development, any, even app mobile development, you can use JavaScript by using things like React Native. And you're gonna be dropping React Native tutorials in the future. So many people are asking us about that. So that would be my answer to you, man, if you do want to learn, the best language this year. So let's see what else is going on. What's the best laptop for coding on? Man, that's such a big question that everybody asks as well. In my opinion, man, I grew up, learning from Windows, using Windows computers and platforms. I was actually working at a computer repair shop for about a year or so. I became very, very advanced. I could literally take apart a laptop and put it back on. Not only did I know so much about the hardware, I also knew tons about the software. And I was always like, oh man, Mac sucks. They're so special. They want you to use those specific softwares. They want you to pay. They want you to, be consumed by their brand because it's so popular. And it's funny because the first time that I actually used Mac for, doing specific projects or working in my job, I noticed why everybody loved it, man. It's funny because they actually design things for humans, and that's the thing. In my opinion, if you're trying to program, buy a Mac. Buy a Mac that right now they're not that expensive. If you look at the 2015 model, you can do a lot with that. So just make sure that you have a machine that has at least 8 gigabytes of RAM. You can use 4, but really use 8 gigabytes of RAM and up. Moving forward, probably in the next 2-3 years, you're gonna want at least 16 gigabytes. But that's most importantly than anything, it would be RAM. Focus on the RAM. And then after that, focus on the processor, whether that, I wouldn't try to use an i3 processor, whether if you're using Intel or a dual core processor, if you're using AMD, I would say use i5s or i7s if you're using Intel. And then if you're using AMDs, try to use 4, 6, or 8 cores, So I think those are going to be more important than the actual brand that you're using. But me personally, I think use a MacBook because the programming environment there is just amazing. And, it's funny. So I see this other question here by Dede Adriman, and he asks, React Native or Flutter? My opinion, I would say React Native, man, because there's so much more support for React Native. And it's cool that if you want to transfer your knowledge from JavaScript, you can apply it in React Native. Also, if you know React, you can apply React Native. So Flutter right now is cool and everything. Dart is a dope language to learn. I know a lot of people are doing tutorials with that, but it's so new, man. You don't know how long it's going to stick around. So I'd say use the thing that is more stable and that's really going to propel you and move forward, that has a little bit more market share and a little bit more job opportunities as well. So I'm going back to this, talking about Flutter and React Native right now, guys. Right now, literally, if you want to learn Flutter, go to Indeed.com, go to Monster.com. Check out the job listings that there are available for Flutter right now. You're going to see that Flutter is very, very limited in terms of job search, job demand, because it's so new, man. Like, not a lot of companies are actually using Flutter to build their apps just because, it's going to be hard for them to scale in platforms that are so new and not stable. So just thinking about, the market share of jobs, Flutter is probably not such a sellable skill right now in this moment. It might grow a lot, but, ultimately find something that the market is actually looking for. Like, some people really want to look for or learn very esoteric languages, and languages such as, it's actually a bad word, but brain is a very it's a funny language. I can't believe it's real, to be honest. But if you're learning that type of language, then bro, that's not sellable at all. You're not gonna get any job doing that. Or if you're trying to learn Cobalt, it's a very old language. If you're trying to use what's older languages, I can't even remember, man. But if you're trying to use Lua or something like that, there's not so many, maybe in game development and things like that, but it's not going to be as popular as learning something like React. It's not going to be as popular as learning something like, JavaScript or Python or anything like that. So make sure that you look at the marketplace, make sure to see what type of jobs are actually, being available at your specific area, and then go from that, reverse engineer what the market is looking for. So that's going to be the sellable skill that we're looking at. And let's see what comments are out here as well. Tarun Patel asks, is it worth it to learn Java? It's funny, man. Java is kind of old, but at the same time, so many websites and so many companies are still using Java. Schools are still teaching Java as a primary language. Java is here to stay probably a few more years, man. Like it has had a long life. And JavaScript is actually based out of Java, but it changed a lot, throughout the years. But Java is very much used. If you check out the Piple, index, or the Toby index of, the top programming languages right now in the market, Java is going to be one of them. I think Java is number 2 right now in the Piple index. And the way that the Piple index works is that it searches around the whole websites of the world right now and shows what type of what type of tech stack is used there. So a lot of them right now in the industry are using Java. So Java is here to stay, man. So, you can really learn from that. Let's see what else people are asking here. So Python versus JavaScript versus C++. That's an amazing thing. I'd say it depends a lot on your personality, man. I think that it always goes back to that, because Python is dope if you want to go, the versatile mode. You want to do pretty much everything. You want to do machine learning, you want to do AI, you want to do web development, you can use Python. That's dope. Then if you want to just use web development, maybe mobile application, maybe front end or back end, use JavaScript. That's the most versatile there. If you're more into games, if you're more of an analytical person and not so visual, as in somebody that maybe would use JavaScript and web development, and don't take me wrong, like you can actually use things like what's it called? I forgot the software for game development. I can't think about it off the top of my head, but they use C# or C++. So, those type of languages to me are a little bit more analytical, and they're not for my specific personality. But if that's you, man, dive ahead. They actually always use them to use hardware, software for hardware, because it's a little bit faster than something more advanced like, let's say, Java or anything like that. So let's see what other people are saying. Suggest me any scripting for website development. I think anything scripting right now would be good using Python. And, talking about learning and building your programming skills, I'd say also learn how to use the command manager. And, a lot of people actually ignore this idea. I spoke about it in my last video, but it's going to help you a lot moving through files, sharing files, uploading things to Git and things of the sort. So that's going to be awesome. Data science versus AI in your opinion. Some people love data. If you love data, if you love numbers, if you love graphs, go to data science. If you really you would like to work with technology and developing, something that has never been done before, if you're trying to look for more analytical, like machine learning or more, AI type of things, then use Python. So these two things can actually use Python. Python is very big with data science and with AI. It's the primary language for those those two industries. So you're not going to go wrong if you're using that specifically. And exactly, I currently am working in a game in Unity, and that's what I'm talking about. That Unity is the software that I was looking for, man. Unity, I forgot. I remember I was in school about a year ago, and I saw one of my buddies. He was creating a 2D game with Unity. Or was it 3D? I think it was 3D actually. And Unity. He was doing like a golf ball or something like that. I was like, whoa, bro, what are you doing? That seems amazing. And it was cool too because, I'm not completely sure if it uses C#, C++. You guys are going to have to, pardon me with that. But what I do see is that I think those are very primitive and very, very, analytical languages. But once you're using a tool like Unity, it's cool because it's kind of like drag and drop a little bit, It's very visual. So even if you're visual, I guess you can use, C++ or C# as well. So don't get discouraged by that. And data structures necessary. This guy is spamming the chat here, but let's answer him because, we're trying to be good people. Data structures that are necessary, man. The most necessary for me, in my opinion, would be arrays, lists, and, learning algorithms that can actually traverse through them, that I can actually, search things through them. And those would be some of them that I think are the most important ones. Arrays are super, super duper, duper important. And they're kind of meta too because you can put arrays instead of arrays, and that would be an array list. And so that's funny. Let's see what else we're talking about here. So the comments say React Native or Flutter. I already answered that. Let's see. Can we use Python for app development? I don't think you can use Python for app development. What you can use Python for would be web application development. And right now, I mean, it sucks to say, but at the same time, programming is kind of taking a shift. Every year, it kind of looks a little bit different. Python right now is going to be funny because, wait, what was the question? I completely blanked out. But, damn, I completely blanked out. I don't remember what I was saying. Let me go back to this really quick. But yeah, guys. So, no, I forgot, guys. But I'll probably remember it here. I just want to go back to what I was talking about before this because, let's carry on with you guys' entertainment / knowledge. So one of the bigger things that you can actually learn and dive deep into while you're starting to code would be the career paths. So, we talked about it in the beginning that you have to have your end goal in mind, because with your end goal in mind, that's really going to dictate what type of things you're going to learn, what type of, person or developer you're going to be. So here in career paths, we're going to discuss a few things. You can either become, obviously a computer programmer with coding, and this can mean a lot of things, Computer programmer it can literally be anything. It can be you're developing web applications, you're creating, desktop applications, you're creating specific, programs to manipulate data. That can all be encompassed into here. And some people, it's funny because you can study computer science and study coding, but let's say you're a little bit harder, you're a little bit, better at learning specific hardware. You're a little bit better with your hands. You're a little bit better at learning, circuits and all of these things, logic circuits, all of these things. So you might want to become a hardware engineer. Even now to this day, hardware engineers are paid very much. Like it's a very good skill to have. They're paid very well. I remember I have a friend that actually works for Intel. He earns about 120K and he was only about 21 when he started working there. And he started off with computer science, but he liked the hardware more. So, it all depends on your personality, like I keep saying, guys. And software developer, the way I kind of differentiate software developers from developers or web developers or anything like that would be software developers are, in my opinion, people that are learning things like Python a little bit more. you can become a web developer with Python. But what I'm saying is like you can develop whether that's desktop applications, whether that's applications for TVs or anything of the sort. And then there's different ways to going about it. You can also become a systems manager, and this is more in the IT field, in my opinion. You're managing systems of networks, whether that's a bunch of computers put together, whether that's the whole tech stack of a company. And it's funny because we're trying to be very modern nowadays, but at the same time it's like all companies need the tech stack. All companies need technologies. They need internet in there. So there are literally multi-million-dollar projects using these type of things. And systems manager is a very good, career to go into if that's what you're like. And web developer, like I mentioned before, a lot of these things we're talking about web development technologies, talking about the languages that you can use for that. So web development to me right now, in my opinion, is one of the biggest parts or chunks of the market. And web development is interesting because you can just write code and you can actually see what you're coding in the screen. So to me, that's amazing. Like I'm saying before, I'm a very visual person. So, web development right now is very well paid. So I think all salaries are above $50,000, at least in the US. And it's really not that hard to pick up. So I think it's harder for you if you're going to start off with, let's say, maybe developing desktop applications or something like that requires even more heavy logic. I think that's way harder. So web development, in my opinion, is a great career to start if you're a beginner right now, or if you really want to go the long term with it, because it's such a versatile and flexible type of career that you just never know how it's going to grow or where programming is going to take you. And another thing would be software engineer, which is, my opinion, is very similar to software developer, man. And you're also creating specific software, maybe that a company uses, maybe that the specific consumer uses. That can be whether that's business to business technology or business to consumer technology, all of these things. But ultimately, computer programmer, software developer, and software engineer are very, very similar things. And, at the end of the day, think about it. What do you want to do? Where do you want to head? What do you want to build? Who do you want to work with? How much money do you want to make? All of these are questions that you have to ask yourself if you are trying to go into programming. So let's just kind of see here what else is going on in the chat. Right now I'm seeing, what about software testing and security? So software testing is very dope because you can do things such as, whether that's quality assurance, that you're always testing out apps and testing out different functionalities of it. If they're not ready, you take them back to development and show why they're not ready and things like that. They're very well paid, professions and actual things to do. But at the same time, it does depend a lot on do you want to just be testing out software, or do you want to actually, be creating the software? So that's a big thing. I know that right now, computer security, network security, all of these things are super well paid, man. It's insane. These guys are earning around 200 plus, 180, 300 plus even using, security. Because I was reading Wired magazine a few months back, and it was showing how hacking is actually $1 billion industry. In 2019, the world lost about freaking, I don't know how many billions of dollars just by people hacking their networks, their services, and things like that. You don't really listen to it on the news, but it's actually very prevalent. So companies are actually using a lot of, I think they're called white hat hackers, and the people that can actually block out hackers and that can actually bring securities to software, because there's a lot of different ways that you can hack people. And so that's why specifically computer security is such a well and good paid thing to study. So people are asking Python versus JavaScript. I already went over that. I mean, Python is good to start off as a first language. I would advise you to start with that and then go into JavaScript, my opinion. But alrighty, guys, it seems to me like we went over the whole presentation. I know it's a lot to take, a lot of knowledge to take from. But ultimately, man, ask yourself the right questions. It's gonna be really beneficial for you if you're able to sit down with yourself and ask yourself, okay, I'm gonna dive into programming. So what specifically do I want to learn? What specifically do I want to work with? How do I want to help people? And by asking yourself those questions, then you can open up way for you to start learning how to learn those things, right? Because if you're a beginner, sometimes it's hard for you to look for the specific resources. So in my opinion, always ask other people. It's like if you're lost, you can either spend 50 minutes looking for that specific spot that you're looking for, or you can just ask somebody that already knows, man. They're going to tell you, oh yeah, it's that way. You're going to be like, oh damn, I should have just asked you 30 minutes ago. I don't know why I'm venturing on this journey alone. People have already walked the path, so make sure to leverage that knowledge from them. Never think that you're alone. That's a big thing for developers. It's not like you're working alone. It's not like you're left alone for you to just, for you to go to this journey and build these projects. No company is like that. You always have to develop your people skills. You have to develop your analytical and problem solving skills if you want to go the long term with this. And also remember that you have to have the right mentality for it. So just to give you guys, a little bit of a summary here, I'm going to go over the comments and then we're going to kill it with that. And if you guys have any intelligent questions, do drop them down below so that I can answer them. And you guys, if you right now are finding a lot of value from this, if you're finding direction from this, we have our Profit with JavaScript course that teaches you exactly how to actually build the full skill set of JavaScript. And not only that, but you can also make money from it. And people normally in every course that I see, they teach you the skills of it, but they don't teach you how to apply them, or they don't teach you how to make money with them. And ultimately, you're building a skill set because you want to feed your family. You want to have the free time. You want to buy yourself, new shoes, new clothes, and be able to be that pillar for your family and for your future as well. So I think it's important for you to learn these skills, and we provide all of that for you guys in Profit with JavaScript. It's going to be in the description below if you guys are interested in it. We got our experts like Sunny, Nas, even Aaron, on weekly live calls for you guys. And we're also reviewing your guys' code. If whatever project you guys are inputting into the system, it's going to be amazing to see, experts literally recording a video and reviewing your code and telling you, hey, this might not be the most beneficial, this might not be the most efficient way to do this specifically. So all of these things are part of that. We have an amazing community of over 1,000 people and 1,000 students. Everybody's super engaged. They're always going to help you. It's such a positive vibe, so make sure to check that out below. And I'm seeing here, let's check out our comments. So I don't know how to progress with Python. Look at our 11-hour Python tutorial right now. Check out the channel, search Python tutorial for absolute beginners in 11 hours. That's going to be a great resource for you to start. It's long, but put in the work, man. You're going to pick it up and it's good. So just to summarize everything, man, for you to really dive deep into code, you have to just do it. Just do it, guys. And that's what's going to take you to where you want to get. Doing it, actually building the muscle memory is what's going to get you that job, what's going to get you paid, what's going to get you to build those skills, and really, what's going to make you the person that you want to be. So it was an honor being here with you guys. I love the energy from everybody in the chat. Thank you, CP family, for the donations and everything. We are at right now 458 concurrent viewers, almost hitting the 1,000 likes. We're at 936 likes. That's amazing, guys. Thank you so much for this. Like I said, I'm very honored. Let's try to hit that 1,000 mark, right? Let's try to, smash that like button right now if you're finding any value from this. We're always going to be live streaming, for probably this whole year, man, almost every day. So we don't sleep. We don't stop. We're here for you guys. We want to teach you guys all of these skills, and we want to transfer the fact that it is possible, guys. You can change your life. You don't have to sit there and wait for something to come into your life. You can actually take lives from the horns, the bull from the horns, and actually dictate what your life is going to look like. So make sure to actually direct your focus, direct your time, be very present with whoever you're working with, so that you can see impact on the things that you're applying. And I love you guys. Take it easy. That's going to be it. We're going to leave it at that. It was Frankie here. Like I said before, doing a lot of job in Clever Programmer, just in the back end. A lot of times you guys are not seeing me, but if you do want to join our courses and everything, most of the time you're talking to me. If you're seeing a lot of the videos that are putting out, titles that are being put out, a lot of times it's me with the team. So I'm glad that I can come here in the front with you guys, and you guys can actually see my face. I can see your pretty face, and I can actually see your questions as well. So we'll leave it at that, guys. This is how to start to code in 2020. Take it easy, y'all. Much love. Peace.